my people out there. I am Srijata Bhatnagar, a setback leader and a global speaker. And I'm here today with you with another exciting guest on the PSAI Talk Show. Well, every week we bring in our members from Professional Speakers Association of India to share their experience and expertise with all of us. The intention is to see and meet our members, get to know them a little better, and see if we members can become 1% better than last week. So today I have a very interesting guest with us. But before that, let me tell you, what does PSAI stand for? Well, one of our values is to become the best professional speaking association in the world. And the values that we go by are respect, integrity, trust, and excellence. Before I bring in my guest for the day today, I wanted to share an experience with you. Being part of many associations, an active member in most of them, I work with a lot of people and a lot of various kinds of people. In one such association, this incident happened some time ago. In a formal meeting, a senior member decided to congratulate me and praise me for my contribution. In that process, he went ahead and said, "Srijata, you are sexy." I was taken aback. I didn't know for a few seconds why did he say that and for what reason. I just couldn't concentrate on what was happening other than feeling hurt, insulted, and angry. I wanted to tell him right then that this is not okay, but I could not. There were so many things running in my mind. What must have been his intention for telling me that? Why did he have to say this word in a professional setting for my professional contribution? Was I really making a mountain out of a mole? Has something like this ever happened to you? Have you been wronged or have you been dealt with inappropriately in a professional setting? Probably somebody's touch or somebody's hug, you found it not so comfortable. It's okay to have that. Moreover, because we are professional speakers, we ourselves need to be aware that we are not being very uncomfortable to others. Our behaviors are within those professional standards. That is what our guest for today is going to talk about, and many other things in her experience. Well, our today's guest, Viji Hari, or Viji, as we lovingly call her, is our in-house posh and diversity expert. She has 20 plus years of experience in this field. She has worked with 100 plus companies like HSBC, Xiaomi, Franklin Templeton, McKinsey, Ford, Infosys, etc. She is also the CII and WICCI lead for Tamil Nadu for POSH, and author of BCC, Behind Closed Cubicles, and her upcoming book, Break the Taboo. Viji is an ocean of knowledge in this particular topic. Viji is also an adventurer by heart and a learner by spirit. And I must tell you, she is a caring and compassionate leader and an amazing friend. I reached out to Viji when this incident happened to me, and with her help, I took the right actions and took care properly. So today, I feel thrilled to host Viji in this platform to talk about her experience, work, and how it is utterly useful and important for us speakers to talk about, to learn about POSH and know what needs to be done at the right time. Welcome, Viji, to the show. Can we have you in the front stage, please?
Hello, everyone out there. Thank you, Srijata, for having me here. So very honored to be part of PSAI talk show.
Woohoo! I am excited, Vijay, because I know when both girls like us in white start talking, we can be angel as well as devil at the same time. Don't you think so? So
Let
let
the
me,
audience decide what's going to
yeah,
happen.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So we will start diving into the business right away. Okay. And let me ask you, Vijay, you are the CEO of CecureUs and you work with organizations on their POSH and diversity needs. Whereas I know you were an engineer originally, weren't you?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Right. Then what made you choose POSH as your speaking niche? How did you go about deciding it?
Lovely. So this is, in fact, my second career. So I started off as a software engineer with my journey in Infosys, grew up the ladder to a project manager, senior project manager, worked there for 13 years, traveled the world, worked for different clients in US. So there was a point in time I said, what next? The learning is done, the growth is stagnated there. What next? Being that inquisitive person, I want to do something different. And that is when the entrepreneur bug bit me. I said, let me take a break. I didn't know what to do next at all. I had no clue, but I said, let me take a break. Let me figure that out. And then I stepped out. I was actually exploring multiple different options. Didn't have my niche yet. All my life it was only project management software. You ask me anything on mainframe, Java, .NET, I did have the answer. But then now, what next? That is when I started exploring the space of HR. Because there were some mentors around that. We said, let's build a HR marketplace. While doing that, there were so many things in the HR field which, without that background, I couldn't really connect with. And in 2013, my stars were good, and that is when the POSH Act came in. And this was something that I closely believed in, and there's so much of things that I connected with that. And my background in Infosys also, I was always part of the women network of the. I knew what is happening in the committee. Been having experienced multiple instances, being a victim myself, right from the time I was a 3-year-old girl, uh, be it in Delhi or be it in Chennai when I was a 5-year-old girl or teenager. I have seen multiple forms of harassment in different cities. It did not change. So it started getting me into what is happening, what is wrong. Am I the one who did something wrong? Be it in buses, be it in public place or small towns, big cities, it did not change. This is something that was very close to me. And probably I had to go through all those setbacks in order to do something for the community, for the society. And this is something my calling is what I realized. And that is how I had that connect. And I said, let me get started with this. And I started off my journey only with POSH. Diversity was not my niche then. POSH was the only niche, the first niche that I started off with in 2013.
Neat, neat. So what I get the meat out of it is what's your calling? Listeners who are listening to us, watching us, here is a question for you. What is your calling? Maybe that's where your speaking niche, your theme lies in. Look closely, you will see it. And Viji, to answer your question on how women out there are going through different forms of harassment, you're right. Even I remember as a child in a small town in West Bengal, I had to go through so many catcallings and different kinds of things. And I would wonder, what on earth did I really do to deserve that? Did I really do something wrong? or what? And same thing continued as I was explaining the incident that happened even after years, and we are still not becoming sensitive. What's your thought on that? What can we really do to make ourselves more sensitive around other people? you know what do you think is required for us as experts?
I think it's all about understanding, knowledge, awareness is what it is, and we have to unlearn what we have learned. Things don't work the same way. I think women have started speaking up. The Me Too movement is a big change. If not now, this is going to come back to haunt you. If you are a harasser, if you've done something intentionally or unintentionally, it may come back to haunt you. May not be immediately, maybe 5 years later or 10 years later. That's what is happening with the Me Too movement. Women are gaining the courage. They may become meek the moment it's happened. They may not have the courage to speak, but sometime they will. So it's important to understand, to give that the freedom, the constitutional rights of equality and dignity. I think that is what women deserve, and that is what the whole premise of the Posh Act has been. And incidentally, today, August 13th, is 24th year anniversary since the Vishaka guideline had come out in 1997.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
lucky
Wow.
today.
What a day to get you on board, Viji. I'm so thrilled that, it's on the right time and the right place. So it's time for us to talk about it more openly, I believe. What say?
Right. Lovely. Look forward. Definitely, definitely. Yes. I think
Super.
that is what is important. I think the more we speak about it, and that is what is my calling and that's my mission, to create more safer and harmonious workplaces.
Perfect, perfect. So tell us more about your work. You work with big organizations, and you also tell them why it is important to have proper posh rules and guidelines in place, and taking care of this aspect of I would say the organizational operational thing. So tell me, why should organizations proactively engage in such initiatives? What's in it for them?
Lovely. I think so. Going back to the question on how did I decide on the niche? So one criteria is that yes, I had that calling, had the passion. I knew that I could talk about it with confidence. Uh, but is there a demand for the topic? That is something that we'll have to assess as well. Are there listeners for this? Are there buyers, takers for this particular topic? That is a one another point that you'll have to assess before you identify your niche, and also identify what is it that you can do differently as compared to your competitors. Definitely there are competitors in each and every field, but what is it that you bring differently to the table? So when I did that analysis, I could find that when I started off in 2013, there were a lot of legal experts who were talking about it, a lot of NGO people who were talking about it. But I came from that perspective, being an employee, being a victim myself, and I could share the stories on workplace etiquettes, what is the right behavior between colleagues. That was a niche that I could bring in, the differentiating factor. And the demand, the reason being the 2013, the POSH Act had come out. There was a need for compliance. It mandated that all organizations, POSH is something that everyone have to be compliant with. They have to train their organization, their employees. The committee had to be formed. So that was a demand that was there, and hence there's a need for organizations, however small, any organization with more than 10 employees, organizations or institutions, hospitals, colleges, any registered body has to have a committee. Our associations as well is included in that.
Nice. That brings me to the next question. In PSAI, you are our in-house posh expert. There is no denying that, right? I mean, what would be your advice for our fellow speakers, fellow members, from a point of view of posh and diversity? What should they keep in mind while interacting with other members or interacting with clients or their audiences? What are certain small things that can make them come across as a really charming, sensitive, empathetical human being without having to hurt any sentiments in the wrong way, unintentionally, specifically.
Lovely. So you asked me two things: posh and diversity. Um,
Yes,
they are, one is about safety and keeping employees safe. The other one is creating a inclusive workplace and an harmonious place. Okay, so I will take the first piece first, and then come to the diversity part later. Posh.
sure.
Uh, so when you talk about the subject of posh, I think it's very important that we be very, very sensitive to what the other person perceives. In India, so one thing that we need to understand is sexual harassment is something that there is zero tolerance globally. Okay, so our speakers are there globally. So all countries, just the law varies in different forms. Maybe if you go to the Middle East, the punishments may be very severe there, right? So and in some countries, probably it's gender neutral. In India, it is women who are protected, right? So we'll have to be very sensitive about where we are saying the law of the land applies. In India specifically, the law is very clearly stated a woman, wherever she goes to any company, if I as a woman or if Srijata as a woman, if you walk into a hospital, you walk into a association or a PSAI conference, or a hospital, college, bank, post office, or your client place, wherever you're going, you have to be protected. And if someone from those organizations harass you, you have the right to speak up and complain. So that is the power of this law that the law has given. And the other thing that we need to understand is that the impact, it is the impact on the individual that matters and not the intent. So we cannot go and say that, hey, hugging is a common thing. So what is wrong? Srijata didn't mind the hug. Why are you raising the problem, Viji? So that is not a thing. It is the impact on the individual. We should understand and respect that people are coming from diverse backgrounds, diverse cities, religions, communities. Each and everyone's uh, perspective will not be different. If Srijata is okay with a hug, it is her perception, whereas I may not be okay with that hug. If I am not okay, I have the right to complain. That is something that we have to understand. Subtle things, right? So the relationship matters. And for example, I might be okay with a hug which probably Ramesh gives me, but I may not be okay with a Suresh who gives me a hug because I may not know Suresh. Probably I have a rapport that I've built with Ramesh. These are small, subtle sensitivities that we have to be alert. So Suresh cannot come and say that, hey, you were okay with Ramesh hugging you, so what is your problem? Why are you raising that ruckus? Right? So these are some of the things that we'll have to be very, very, very cautious. The language that we use. So verbal, the non-verbal cues, gestures, the online interaction, the emojis, the tone, the F words. Definitely it is a sexual word. So definitely please stay clear of all these things, be it physical, verbal, non-verbal, anything on social media. Records are getting created. So that is something that we'll have to be very sensitive. And on the other hand, as victims, in case we are victims, what we have to do is speak up, stand up and speak up for what you, if you're not comfortable, let the other person know. You don't have to create a ruckus also, but depending on definitely the gravity of the whole thing, at least sensitize the other person. The other thing is, have the records in case you have received some unwanted message, save them somewhere. I know people who are experts on this topic. The other day, I was talking to one of my other colleagues in this area. She said that, hey, one of the clients has been texting me good morning, good night every day and night, which is not comfortable at all, which is needless. I said, hey, where is the proof? Can you just share with the proof with me? I'll see if I can do something. Yeah, I deleted it. Yeah, I was scared my husband would say something. So I didn't want it, my husband to see that. He would stop me go from talking to taking up any other assignments. People, senior people, are deleting the proofs when they know the subject, when they know. So it's very, very important for us to create those, save those evidences and to speak up. And third, we've spoken about as perpetrators, what do you avoid, whether you are doing it in unintentionally, even unintentionally, we should be very, very careful. There's no excuse, right? We cannot say that, hey, I'm like your father. It doesn't work. Two, as victim, speak up and save evidences. Three, as Witness, I think bystander intervention is something that's very, very important. First is on some premise, rescue the person, rescue the victim out there, and then talk to the harasser. It's important to let them know that this is not right. And if you think you're not in a position to talk, at least inform the authorities, whoever is the respective. So if it's an institution, let the HR know or let the committee know. If it's an association, let the president know. I think that is what is important for us to do as witness as well. So these are some of the key things. I can keep talking about it on and on. So that is on the posh side. I will move on to the diversity. Do you want me to move on right away, or should we have some other conversation?
I have one more question around posh here. Now, I think many a times, all of us, a lot of us, even I have this dilemma: is it a harassment or is it not? Like when this incident happened to me, I wasn't really aware. Was it even a harassment? Can I really call it a harassment, or am I just making a mountain out of a mole? Right? I mean, I really didn't know. So, can you just explain us, for the benefit of our listeners and the people who are watching us, that what exactly accounts for a sexual harassment?
Okay, lovely. So, yes, harassment, there are two parts. One is general harassment, where there could be some discrimination, where someone has insulted you or bullied you or body shamed you. That is general harassment versus sexual harassment. So, the thumb rule is three things. One, was it unwelcomed? You did not want it, you did not welcome that behavior. So, unwelcomed. Was there an impact? The intent does not matter. Whether the other person intended to harass you or not does not matter. Did you have an impact? So these two things definitely call for make it as an harassment. The third differentiating factor is the sexual in nature. Was it sexual in nature? Anything, words, as I said, physical, verbal, or non-verbal. Were there any sexual connotation to it? Then definitely it is a sexual harassment. Sexual combined with unwelcome and the impact that you had, and it is that it's very, very subjective. What I feel the impact, the other person may not feel. If I have felt it, it is harassment for me. So that is something that these three things are the key.
Wow, you gave that certain clarity, with us. Was that unwelcomed? Was that impactful on the victim? And was it anything sexual in nature? Words, verbal, non-verbal, or touch-wise? So guys, be careful about how you behave in a professional setting. Be aware of your surroundings. That's what I would say. There's a question from the audience, and I'm happy there is questions like this. Nina John asks us, what is casual sexism and what about it? How can we stop? What is casual sexism, and how can we really stop, and how can we become aware that we are being casually, sexual, and just offending somebody without intending to actually go under the sexual harassment sphere?
So sexism is a bit different from harassment. Sexism is more about the discrimination or the assumption that women do not know anything, or men are better than women, or some women don't know. So it could be a mansplaining, okay, man interrupting. So these are the things that comes there actually. So, or women being another women's enemy, right? Where they don't want another gender, the women should not come up. That is the kind of thing, right? Or women are, or stereotyping, right? Gender stereotyping. Women are not great drivers. So that is what is casual sexism, where I think it is just granted that, or not letting a woman be heard in conferences. It is said that Lenin book, Sheryl Sandberg has actually mentioned, which is very true. She said that women have to keep their hands raised in conferences, right? Or how many women speakers are there in a panel? Is it a mixed group, or is it a diverse group there, right? So I think these are some of the things where women are still struggling, and that is where the concept of the diversity, specifically gender diversity, comes in there.
Right. Yeah, I think that brings me to my next question around diversity. As speakers, as professional global speakers, what do you think should our conduct be when it comes to diversity? How can we consciously increase the diversity quotient around us? That would be my question.
Right. So before I answer that, one thing, just to quickly briefly explain what diversity is. Diversity
Mhm.
is a range of things varying from the gender diversity, where we need to understand gender is no longer binary. We have male, female, and the other gender as well. So when you talk about gender diversity, we need to be very, very, I think, so simple things as a speaker. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, versus good morning, everyone, where you're being inclusive, right? Because you're not just being binary. When you're addressing a conference, it is said that there are at least 5% of people from the LGBTQ community. So we'll have to be very,
Mhm.
very conscious about that. Be inclusive in your language. Avoid stereotypes. Do not have any stereotypes or bias towards a particular community or minority, right? So that is where the cultural aspects, the ethnicity, right? You cannot go and say that simple things like I've heard many people say, "Oh, India is a land of snakes," or "All African children are starving." That could be an opening line, right? So, see, we need to be very, very cautious. Is that a right statement to generalize things, right? So, we'll have to be very cautious around that. That is what being inclusive means, right? Diversity is an aspect where you have the different gender, you have the sexual orientation with the LGBTQ community, or generational diversity, which our president speaks about, or we have people with disabilities. Again, how can you be very sensitive, mindful about them, right? So these are different aspects of diversity, where people are different, they have their own uniqueness, but having an inclusive mindset is having including all of these people around. So diversity is being called for a meeting, whereas inclusive is being given an opportunity to speak and being heard. So that is what it is. And it's important to remember that when we are inclusive, all the diverse set of groups, they fall in together, they become your audience. You don't want to leave out any the underrepresented group. We want to address everyone, right? So that is what is important. So we could have customers from any nook and corner of our world, and from any of these communities. So that is important to understand and be very respectful, mindful, empathetic of what we speak, in terms of being very inclusive. So I can keep speaking again. There are a lot of tips around that. One is not just the language, how you address the speeches, but also in your collaterals, or where with the audience that you're speaking to, who's your target audience, understand their culture that they come from, and talk accordingly. So that is something that's very important. Even your collaterals that we all create. I think I know, Srijata, you've been speaking out loud and talking about having our speaker sheets, our videos, our courses, podcasts. So all these things are very, very important. But are we being mindful? Whether are these being accessible? Do we have captions in our videos? A subtle thing, just enable, activate the captions. Do our websites, are they inclusive? Are we having words which are very inclusive? Any pictures, does it have an alt text? So because these things are going to be very sensitive for the people who have disabilities. There are 15% of population with disabilities who cannot speak, or who cannot see, they cannot read, right? They have to hear. So are your collaterals inclusive enough, accessible enough? Social media posts, language that we use. So that is something that we'll have to understand in terms of the language, the collaterals that go on.
Yeah, true. Very, very true. Very true. And, this reminds me of another speaker. I remember, James Taylor talking about something around diversity as well. And in 2019 PSS, the Professional Speakers Summit, I believe. And he was saying the similar things, something similar, exactly how you said that, it needs to have that diverse understanding of the audience, and then accordingly change your behavior. So here is another comment from Nina. She's asking, rather she's commenting, passing personal comments about women, their hair, their look, etc., etc., in a Zoom meeting. Would that count under casual sexism?
That would be, I would say, harassment, personal comments about, uh, See, depends on, see something about a person's personal thing, right? About, so even there is a thin gradient depending on how what the gravity is. So subtle things like, hey, you're looking pretty today, versus, hey, you know what, that Srijata, that lipstick versus your chain, your necklace is orange. Why did you wear an orange necklace, orange lipstick? Right, that goes into the specifics, right? So that becomes very personal, and that could become sexual again. So different, there is a subtle, so depending on what the comment is, it can vary between sexism, sexist remark, to body shaming, to bullying, to harassment. And of course, who has to
Right.
decide that? It is that individual, the impact on who is being, they have to decide whether they felt it as harassment or not. So that's something that we'll have to be very watchful. We cannot go and, as a witness, don't go and make a ruckus. Ask the person who's impacted, hey, did you feel impacted? Do you need any help?
Yeah, I think that's the most important point. It is from the victim's point of view who felt bad, or felt insulted, or felt upset about it. So it's never from the perpetrators or the onlookers' point of view, it is from the point of view of the victim. So thank you for clearing that fog in our mind. So, Vijay, I want to move now from this topic to your books. I know you've written a very interesting book called Behind Closed Cubicles. Why don't you tell us about the book a little bit more? What is it all about? Who is it for? And where can we access it? And what can we expect from it? I know there are too many questions I asked at one go.
See, I think more than talking about the book, I think what I want to share, I'm sure the audience can go and look up on the book and all, but I think what I want to share on how the book has helped me, I think that is what I want to be sharing with the speakers over here. Each and every one need that book. So this book had come out sometime in 2016. But before that, I think sometime in 2015 or late 2015, I had met Kriba Shankar, our very own Kriba Shankar. And in one of the meetings, he was talking about how he had the passion for the book. And one thing that he said struck the chord with me. I am not a writer. I didn't have, in 2015, back then, I was struggling. As I said, from software engineer to becoming a posh expert, I could not establish. People were not, hey, what is your background? Who are you to speak about posh? That was what being questioned. So the point that Kriba said is that this book that you write will become an expensive business card. So when you go meet your client, give your business card and then talk about it. And then when you walk away, give them the book. That gives the credentials, right? People may not read what is inside the book. It does not matter what the content is, but the the blurb that is there on the book with your page, the author, that adds the credibility. And trust me, that drove me to write this book. And that words of Kriba came true. And this book has really helped me to be an expert in this area. And definitely when you write a book, of course, you take the steps to write a book. I took it as a 100-day challenge again, which Kriba had started off. I signed up for his workshop, book writing workshop, and took it as a 100-day challenge and launched the book. Definitely, while writing the book, you start doing a lot of research. You definitely don't want to write. There are readers, of course, so you don't want to write something which is not relevant. So you do a lot, and that also helps build your expertise, and you it gives you great clarity on what you want to do, where you want to go. So that is something that I definitely would recommend. If you have not written, the listeners, if you have not written a book, please go for it. There are multiple ways to get your book out. I definitely, it is a value add as a speaker.
Super, super. I know many of them who want to write a book. They're sitting on the fence and yet to take a decision to write that book. Can I name them out, or will you please put your hands up together saying that, yes, I want to write that book,
No, 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 no shaming people here. Not on this
No, I
forum.
won't name it. Don't worry. They know who they are and who need to take action. I know they're smiling right now while listening and saying that, yes, I want to write that book, but I really don't know, can I really write it? So here goes Viji's, experience, that what the book did for you. And I couldn't agree more with you on this, Vijay, because it is an expensive business card. Not only it is an expensive business card, it is a business card that will put you 10 steps ahead of your competitors. So go ahead, write your first book. Once you do that, it will become a piece of cake. So now Vijay is writing another book which is ready for launch, which is called the Break the Taboo. Tell us little more about the book. I love the title. I also saw the creative of the book and I love it. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Lovely, lovely. So I think, as I said, I call myself as a posh and diversity expert. And so first I started with posh, and then gender diversity is what I started off first, because again I saw that it was connected there, gender sensitization, gender discrimination, all related. So I started my passion there, and built it slowly towards the other forms of diversity as well. And while doing these two things, I realized that to create a safe workplace, because my mission was to create a safe and harmonious workplace, I realized that employee safety, when there was discrimination happening or when there was harassment happening, people are going through trauma, mental trauma that was there. And they required counseling. And that is when I said, hey, this is something that's very important. There is a need for this. And counseling was something that I had personally, again, it's helped me a lot, right? Again, the concept of going to a shrink is something that's very, very common in progressive countries. People, every week, they go have an appointment with a shrink and speak for an hour, sit on the couch. Whereas in India, it is such a taboo. My husband refused to come to the counselor. He said, no, I'm fine. I think probably there's something wrong with you. You need to go to the counselor. I said, well, I think let me go and talk. And such a, trust me, talking to a counselor is a friend who does not judge you, who does not give you advice, right? So it was such an eye-opening thing for me and such a relief for me, where I could open up and share my thing and make myself a better human being. So I said, hey, counseling is something that's very important again. So let me start this as another offering of mine, where I started reading a lot of things about it. So again, in order to establish myself as an expert, as on this topic of counselor, again, I'm signing up on doing a lot of certifications around that. And also for my clients, I needed a book. So I said, okay, book is the best way to showcase myself as an expert. So, but this topic is very sensitive on breaking the taboo on counseling. It's okay to seek help is the tagline, and it is a collection of stories around counseling. What happens at workplace? When do you need to talk to a counselor, and what really happens in a counseling session? And trust me, I did not write this book. It's a collection of stories narrated by counselors. All that I did was pick up some expert psychologists who have done this, been there, interviewed them. Again, thanks to all these ideas, thanks to PSAI, but for all the ideas, so we just have to replicate them. I think it's all about implementing and taking action. So this book is curated by me, a collection of stories that was narrated by people, interviewed by me, and converted as book. So going to be launching September 8th is the launch date. Definitely, and thanks to again PSAI for helping me shortlist the book cover. So that is the book about.
Wow, wow, wow. So we are all coming to your book launch. I know we will even come uninvited, so you don't even have to invite us. So listeners, 8th September, mark your calendar. The book is launching. Please be there to support Viji. Viji, you know what? When you were talking about the taboo, it reminded me of my incident when I wanted to see a shrink. I had a really dark time in my life when I failed in my entrepreneurship and all of that. And I went to a counselor. First thing she said is that I need your partner to be with you. And that was probably one of the toughest thing I had to ask my partner to come and join me in the counseling. I had a choking feeling in my heart when I had to tell him this. And when he gave a disapproval, on his face, saying that, what on earth are you having problems with? You have everything in life. Why do you still need to see a shrink? It's, I think, probably the worst feeling of my life. But then somehow I managed convincing him, and here I am with a better version of me after many years of that incident. But then you're right, that taboo still exists, and it is important that we break it bit by bit, point by point. With that, I want to move on with PSAI. You've been talking about PSAI a lot, and I know you were one of those founding members of PSAI. I met you at PSS 2019, and the first thing I loved about is you was your caring and compassionate attitude. I remember you driving in an SUV around the city with us and dropping us. Right. So I've had really beautiful memories with you, Viji. When I think I've met you only once, and still we became really good friends eventually, right? I want to know from you, how did you happen to become the founding member of PSA, and what led you to it?
Honestly, way back in 2019, I think I had no clue on the speaking world. I didn't know that this profession existed also. So I was comfortably being a consultant. I do a lot of workshops. I do a lot of trainings. So again, thanks to Kriba. So I owed him a lot for the book, that workshop, and getting my book out. That was in 2016. So in 2019, when he said, Viji, we are doing this, I'm sure it's going to be helpful. Why don't you come in and join in? I said, hey, whatever you say. Blindly followed what Kriba said, and there's no regret, no looking back. Right? So that was one of the best decisions that I had taken. And I was only, and there were like few people in Chennai. We had come together because Kriba was from Chennai. So it's all started off in Chennai. Then we said, let's do a summit because that's something that what other, because Kriba had complete knowledge on what was happening globally. So that was something that we had to launch with. And by chance, I had to become a co-chair as well. So all of a sudden, and things were, it was the first time we were doing, we had no clue what was required, what had to be done, but we had to call in speakers from across the globe. So I took on the responsibility, and I think rest is history. So, and trust me, the learning, the people that were there, amazing, and that happened pre-pandemic as well. So it is a beautiful experience of meeting all of you out there, right? So what lovely experiences we had. We had global speakers. We had Frederick coming in all the way, Shan Asino, so many other lovely speakers, which was so very awful. Uh, will I be able to speak like them? Was a question that I had back then, right? And thanks to this network, the cohort, which has really brought the amount of learnings, right? I think maybe only the podcasting is still pending for me. Courses are done, book is done, my all the video vlogs are done. The amount of things that I've learned, the way I've transformed, right? I was so much shy to speak in front of a camera. The amount of mistakes that I would have. So now I'm so comfortable. Thanks to I attended Shivakumar's workshop on speaking, and then I did Sharad Sharma's speaking video making classes, and the OBS sessions which Sandeep does. I think all these have slowly. I think it is about spending that time. There are people who are willing to give their time. It's all about how much we are taking it and how much we implement it back. That is what is PSAI all about. And definitely there's no looking back and so much of learning. And we have changed as a tribe. When the pandemic happened, the amount of learning, the kind of gadgets, the equipment that's required for a setup, how do you do your talks innovatively, creatively, right? So that's something that I've been in love, and being that inquisitive learner, this is where I go to. All that I have to do is pick up the phone and talk to any one of you, and I get a solution.
Woohoo! Woohoo! I feel so proud to be part of PSAI right now as a tribe. And you know what? I found another person who talks about how much it has grown them since 2019 till today. So I feel really that camaraderie with you, And I think it is about, you're right, it is about taking that action, implementing what you are learning. There is no dearth of learning, there is no dearth of knowledge, there is no dearth of expert around us in PSCI, even if you don't go beyond that. Question is, are you finding that expert? Are you learning from them? And are you implementing for your growth. I think that's the message right here. I had another question, that how did PSAI help you? But I think you've already answered that question. So I'm going to ask you the other question right now. You have been in the speaking space for a while. You have been working on your niche. You have been, teaching or talking to people in definite definite ways, and 100 plus companies you have worked with. What would be your final three tips for the speakers who are just starting out and who are just struggling to make a mark for themselves?
One is find your niche, the calling, and does it have a demand, right? That is something. That is something that is yes. Who else, right? Go to Srijata. She'll help you find your niche. So,
Little bit of self promo is okay, I guess.
shameless. Let's be shameless, as Praveen says. Let's go. Let's be shameless. Shamelessly sell ourselves. And that's what is important, right? Who else is going to talk about us? Find that calling. That's very important, and create your expertise, put it out in the world. I think again, there's so many times Sridhar has shared, so many of us have shared how to be a world class speaker. There are things that we have to do, because all of a sudden calls me and says that Viji, can I have 30 minutes of your time? I just want to get to know about you. And in that meeting, he comes and he says, he reviews. I didn't even ask for it, but he comes and reviews all my. He reviews my website. He reviews my content. He says, selflessly giving. Where else can we find this kind of thing? This is very, very important as speakers. Find your calling, build your portfolio, build your collaterals, be ready to take on the world, and continuously keep learning and upgrading yourself. Three things is something very, very important.
So true, so true. With that, we are done with the serious part of the conversation. But are we really done? No, 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 no. We are not yet done. My most favorite part of this talk show is still pending. So we are going to make Viji sit in a hot seat right now and ask her some rapid fire questions. Viji, are you
Hello,
ready?
hello. I think my internet is unstable. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can all hear you fine and clear, darling. So don't even worry.
Okay, go
So, are
ahead.
you ready? The questions
Ready? I think
coming
my
right
first
in your
rapid
way.
fire game for it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So don't worry. This is not the those gory, controversial rapid fires, but we'll all have a little fun at your expense. That's what we are looking at.
Go
So
ahead,
here
go
it
ahead.
goes. So the first question to you, Viji, I want you to answer it in 3 seconds. Okay. If a movie was made on your life, what would it be called and what genre would it be? No time for thinking.
Adventure, adventure genre would be adventure. The movie would be called Find Your Calling.
Nice. I like that. I like that. Okay, here comes the second one. What was your most embarrassing moment and why?
Embarrassing moment at?
Why?
Why? Okay.
Why was it an embarrassing moment and what was that?
I think talking about the speaking itself, there's so many times where I've gone unprepared and I felt like a joker thinking that I'm an expert in this topic. I've done this. But what I've realized is each and every time the stage is different, the audience are different. You have to prepare and go. You cannot
Yes.
be overconfident. Do not take it for granted.
Nice.
I
I like
be my
that.
moment.
I like that. Okay, what was the craziest thing you did as a child?
Craziest thing. I put my terrace up on fire. I lit the crackers, and there was a haystack, a stock there, and I silently went and hid in my bedroom after that. And my brother found it. He was playing on the street, and he found that, and then he had to go running around, stopping the fire.
Nice. Interesting. I know you have a big, long bucket list. We want to know the top three items in your bucket list.
Travel the world, 50 countries to be checked in, 15 done, so I still have a long way to go. Um, get into a retirement mode of 50 plus when I turn, and do contribute more, do some lot of philanthropy. Uh, that is one, and the last is to jump out of a plane. So that's the
Whoa! Even I have that dream, by the way.
diving.
I love to. I would want to do skydiving. Yep. Good, good, good. Okay, so here is one more question. And what is the silliest lie you have told somebody and got away with it? Silliest lie. It's like no brainer, but still people believed you and you got away with it.
Honestly, I can't really think about
You
it.
you are a bad liar, Viji. That's why I asked you this question just to validate
Sorry,
my
pass.
thoughts.
Pass.
Okay. Okay. So complete this sentence that I say. Never have I ever.
Never have I ever harassed anyone sexually.
Woohoo! Lovely, lovely, lovely. Not even your husband, didn't you beat him up? That's my
Unintentional.
harassment words,
Let
you
me
know.
add the word unintentionally. That is intentional harassment.
Gokul, are you listening? Oh my God. Okay, what is the best compliment have you received?
My smile is beautiful and that my dimple is great. I take
Woohoo! Yes,
that as harassment.
yes, your dimple is great and you smile beautifully, Vijay. There is no doubt about that. Last but not the least, what are you going to advise or tell your 20-year-old self? Like, I mean, when you were 20 years younger, what would you tell yourself?
Don't explore the world. Don't look back. Go for it. I think that is something that's very important. I think do not regret later of not having done something. So that is something that's very important. Yeah.
Yes, very, very true. I think I would tell the same thing to my 20-year-old self. I would say, take more risks, enjoy life. Ultimately, everything will be fine. So that's the thing. Great. We had an amazing show. We are almost an hour full. We've been talking for an hour since 9 p.m. All right. So we are towards the end of the show. I have had a ball of a time. Tell me how you all liked today's conversation. Give us some of your appreciative comments for Viji to see in the comment box and let us know how did you enjoy the comment. What are your learnings? Let me summarize my learnings. So I think I had a clarity about posh today. It's not about the intent, it is about the impact. We are always looking from a victim's perspective and not from the perpetrator or the people who are onlookers perspective. And three, it's important to think diverse, be diverse, and talk diverse. What has been your learning? Share your learnings in the comments. With that, today we come to a close of the talk show. Thank you again, Vijay, for joining us and having such a ball of a time and sharing your thoughts, your ideas, and your knowledge with us all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, all the listeners. I hope I made some difference, as Srijata had said in the beginning, made you much better as compared to last week, a little bit. So please do share in if you liked it. Do connect with me, Viji Hari on LinkedIn. Thank you, Srijata, for the opportunity. Thank you, PSAI, so much.
Pleasure. And I will see all of you guys some other time, some other space. Till then, good night. Take care. Shabak khair.